Deontay Wilder is the heavyweight king of making excuses. Knuckleheads, welcome to the FightersRep, where we give you free fights, interviews in the fight game, and fight commentary from the mind of myself, a promoter. Knuckleheads, I'm having a hard time with this one. I'm having a hard time with this one because my view of the fight game is you go in there, the better man wins. If you lose, you don't make excuses. You dust yourself off and it's on to the next. That's the way a man deals with a loss, right? We dust ourselves off, we improve. On to the next. But 7 months on from his loss to Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder is still making excuses, whether directly or indirectly. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, there have been so many conspiracy theories that have swirled around this fight that it just absolutely reeks of fanboyism. I will say that these are conspiracy theories because a controversy, for me, would actually have to hold some weight. But for me, these are just wild conspiracy theories. And the only sort of controversy I think there was in their rematch back in February that we're still talking about 7 months on was the fact that it was probably stopped a little bit too late. If anything, it should have been stopped a round or two before to save Wilder some of the damage. But I digress. Right now, we're talking about the latest in a slew of excuses from Team Wilder, and this time it's coming from his sparring partner, Junior Fa, who, according to the sensationalized media online, you know, they're always looking for a headline, they're always presenting clickbait. According to the media online, you know, Deontay Wilder tore his bicep. And they're getting this information through Junior Fa. Now, I want you guys to real quick look at what the titles of these articles are saying versus what Junior Fa is saying. You see, as an objective person and as an attorney, having read Junior Fa's comments, I find them to be inconsistent, and typically when an attorney sees an inconsistency, we object because we feel like the person is lying. Now, I'm not saying Junior Fa is lying about this, but I'm saying that he sounds like someone who doesn't really have a lot of information. So I want to compare the titles of the articles, which are used as clickbait to lure you guys in, and what Junior Fa actually said. You tell me what you think about this excuse. So, I mean, if you go on Google, you look at Deontay Wilder's, you look up Deontay Wilder's surgery or injury or whatever, you'll see one of the main articles, and this is from Sky Sports, who I guess they did an interview with Junior Fa, is entitled, Deontay Wilder's preparations for Tyson Fury were disrupted by injury, says sparring partner Junior Fa. I mean, so Sky Sports' title in this is saying that Deontay Wilder's preparations were disrupted by injury. There's no sort of vagueness about it. It's just very direct. The guy's camp was disrupted by an injury. But if you go into the article and you read what Junior Fa actually said, you see in quotes the truth. And this is what he says. And for me, this is the most important takeaway and the most important paragraph with regards to his quotes. He said, I think he did hurt himself towards the end of camp, which I don't think would have played too much into the fight. But then I don't really know the extent of the damage of the injury that he sustained. So while Junior Fa made several different statements in this interview, this particular statement indicates that he's not even sure if Deontay Wilder got hurt. Let me repeat it for you. I think he did hurt himself towards the end of camp. That to me sounds like somebody who's not sure. If he knew Deontay Wilder hurt himself towards the end of camp, he would have said he hurt himself towards the end of camp, not I think he hurt himself towards the end of camp. He also follows that up with which I don't think would have played too much into the fight, so he doesn't think that this injury that he doesn't know anything about, because he adds that he doesn't know the extent of the damage of the injury. He says that this injury, which he doesn't know anything about, would not have played into the fight. So if you think he got injured, and you don't think the injury would have played into the fight, but you don't know because you don't know the extent of the injury, you sound to me like somebody who doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about, and you should probably shut your mouth. In a court of law, I would have absolutely eaten this guy for breakfast with the bullshit inconsistencies that are coming from this statement. Again, if you go to the title, it says Deontay Wilder's preparations for Tyson Fury were disrupted by injury, says sparring partner Junior Fa. He gives another quote, I guess later on in the interview, where he says, what I do know is that he did get injured. And then he says, but I was very surprised by Fury's game plan. You know, this sounds like a guy who may have heard something. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I won't call him a liar, even though his shit is all over the place, inconsistent. But it sounds like a guy who heard a rumor and is expressing this rumor that he heard. The guy has no information, and despite the fact that these news outlets are basically indicating directly that there was an injury that disrupted Wilder's preparations, there's actually nothing there based on what I've seen from these articles that would support that. So 7 months on, and now we have another excuse that his preparations were hampered by a bicep injury. We've had a 40-pound costume excuse, which allegedly killed his legs for the fight. A 40-pound costume killed a heavyweight champion's legs as he walked about 300 feet from the entrance to the ring when he took it off. And of course, we have Glovegate, right? Which is the ultimate fanboy conspiracy, since there's basically no way around it, really. I mean, they're saying that Tyson Fury either took stuff out of his gloves or stuffed things in his gloves. I mean, these are people that are just not going to accept reality. You know, I've heard both. He took stuff out of his gloves and he stuffed things into his gloves. In fact, Deontay Wilder's own brother said that they did an autopsy, he called it. Right? He called the examination they did on Wilder an autopsy. And said that there was a dent in Deontay Wilder's head caused by a blunt object, by blunt force. And he's saying that, basically he's implying that there was something placed in the glove. Now, if you don't think that you can get a dent in your skull by getting punched by a guy who weighs 275 plus pounds, is 6'9" tall, and has an 85-inch reach and a ton of leverage and has been throwing punches his entire life, then I don't know what to tell you. I mean, we've personally seen guys in MMA get their skulls caved in. But I digress. You know, I don't want to go back and forth with this childish bullshit. I won't even entertain it. What I will entertain is the fact that we've got a costume excuse. One of the lamest excuses I've ever heard. We've got a stuffed glove excuse. We've got an emptied out, hollowed out glove excuse. Now we got a bicep injury excuse. As if these fighters, whether it was Fury or Wilder, ever go in there feeling and being completely 100%. I mean, it's just completely outrageous, knucklehead. So I kind of want to get your opinion on whether I'm being too hard on this guy or whether Deontay Wilder is the actual king of excuses. And a lot of it may not even be Wilder. It's just from his team, from his fanboys. Let me know what you guys think about these excuses, whether you buy into them. I certainly don't, and I find it to be classless, and I find it to really lack masculinity. Knuckleheads, hit the subscribe button below the bell notification icon next to it. Join Knucklehead Nation and get your Fighters Rep gear in the link below. We got shirts, hoodies, tanks, masks, whatever. Because if you don't know shit about the fight game. I'll talk to you guys soon.